Hey everyone, we're pretty much done with our dashboard for now, and what we're looking to be doing is to go to our sketch file and take a look at the stock view that we're going to be building. So as you can see, the header or the subheader here is a little bit different, so we're going to have to need to build out these components and swap them out with the ones that are already there in the dashboard. And I think we'll start with building this information component on the left hand side here. So let's get started on that. We'll head back to our editor and we'll create a new page inside of our pages directory. And we'll call that StockView, and we'll create a StockView.jsx file. And we'll go ahead and just create a functional component called StockView. And for now, we'll return a hello world div. All right. Now let's go to app.js and we'll go ahead and we'll copy this route. Actually, no, we already have another, so we'll just use that one. And we'll say stocks.ticker and we'll import the stock view. So let's go ahead and plug that in. And hit save. So now if we go back to our browser and we type in stocks and then whatever ticker we'd like to view, we should be able to get our hello world component. And there it is. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our editor and we'll go to our stock view component, stock view, and we'll get started building this out. So the first thing we'll do is we'll give it a stock view module CSS file, and we'll go ahead and we'll import the styles. And let's see. We want to grab our header because that's going to be the same. And so we want to import our header, and we also want to grab the subheader, because even though we're gonna switch out the components that go in the subheader, the actual subheader will be the same. So let's go ahead and we'll make this a fragment, and inside of here we'll say header and we'll add the subheader. And close that off, and inside we'll add a hello world div. So let's go ahead and check that out. All right, sweet. So we already have our header and subheader in place, and what we need to do now is we want to get started building out the info, stock info component here. So let's go ahead and go back to our editor and get started on that. So we'll create a new file in components. We'll say stock info and stockinfo.jsx, and we'll create a functional component here. create a stock info CSS file and make sure it's a module, and then we'll import that. Stock info module.css. So now we have our styles, and we'll go ahead and start with a container. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we have. So we have a name and ticker, we have bid and ask, and we have sector, and we have change percentage. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the top one. So we'll have one container that's going to be a flex container, and it's going to be displaying everything in a column. And then we'll have containers inside of there where we have a vertical flex box, and we'll display the items here inside of the vertical container. So just to see what that's going to look like, we could just draw a new rectangle here. So we're going to have each of these items in their own kind of containers. That's going to be a vertical container. Oops. And then we'll have one surrounding the entire thing. That's going to be a flex box with column container. So that will make sure that all of these sub containers stack underneath each other. So let's go ahead and get started on the first one, which is name and ticker. So let's go ahead and say div class name, and we're going to give it a styles, and let's say name info, and inside of here we're going to have let's say name info container. And then since we have two items, if we go back and see, we have these two items. I want to create another container for those, and then just display that as flex column. So let's go ahead and see what it's going to look like. So create a new div, and we'll say styles name container, and then we'll have the, let's see, all right, so we'll have the name be an h1, and then we'll have a paragraph underneath, and that's going to be the ticker, sorry, the name, and we'll just put it in for now, and we'll say class name. I'm not sure this should be a header actually. Let's say span, and we'll say name, and all right. So make sure we put a return here, otherwise it's going to complain. And let's go ahead and copy this, and we'll say we'll say, let's say ticker, and then y. All right. So let's go ahead and make sure we can put this on the screen, and then we'll get started styling it. So let's go over to our stock view, and we'll import our stock info components, and we'll put that in our subheader. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so here we have the info that we put in, and we'll go back and just take a look at our stock info components. And so we want to give our stock info some styling. So go to stock info module CSS, and we'll say stock info display flex, and then flex direction column, and we will grab our name info container, and we'll say that this is gonna have display flex and justify content space between. And I think we're gonna say that this is gonna be a general container or outer container, and then these can be inner containers, because we'll have the same class names for the other ones as well. So let's grab the inner container, or actually let's just go ahead and give this a color white, and then we'll see what it looks like. Alright, so we have these now, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that they line up vertically instead of horizontally, instead of vertically. So let's go ahead and see. So we have our stock info here, and then it seems like we have a class that is not being applied. So make sure we go back, hit save. We'll grab the outer container, and we'll make sure that our outer container has display flex and justify content space between. So now we have this, and if we increase the stock info size or width, so let's say 400, no, that's way too much, 250 pixels, then that's starting to get us somewhere. So let's go ahead and say that the width is going to be 250 pixels for our stock info component. And then we'll go ahead and we'll grab our span, and we'll give that a class name of styles header span. And we'll go ahead and go into stock info, and we'll say font size 0.8, and we'll give it a font weight lighter, and let's see what that does. Alright, and then we'll give it a margin bottom 5 pixels. And we'll also have to add display block, because span is by default an inline element, so margins won't apply unless we actually say that it has to be display block. Alright, now let's go ahead and we'll add the bid and ask by taking this, and we'll add another outer container, and then we'll say bid, and we'll say ask, and we'll say we'll just put in the values for now. And then we'll give this a class styles dot, let's say, yeah, bids is fine for now. So that'll add another container underneath. And so we want to make sure that we have some amount of margin on that. So we'll go to our stock info, and in the outer container we'll add a margin bottom of 15 pixels. We'll see what that looks like. Alright, and we want to have a color on these, so we want to add this green color, and I think we already have that in our variables in index CSS. So let's go ahead and say bids, and we'll add the color of var, and we'll go ahead and check the index file. So exchange green, well, that's the one we'll use. Hit save on that. And now we're going to have the green ask and bid. So finally now we need to add the sector and the change percentage. So let's go back and we'll go ahead and add this final piece. So we'll grab another of these outer containers and inners, and we'll add the sector, and for now we'll put in industry, and then we'll remove the span and we'll say styles change on that, and we'll remove the class name from industry, and that'll just be a simple paragraph. So we'll say change on the percentage, and we'll do something like this, and then we'll grab the change class and go back to our stock info module. We'll give that a color, we'll add that here, and then we'll give it a font size of 1.1 rem. And let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So hit save, and we'll go back to our browser, and we'll hit refresh, and it looks like I might have screwed something up with the classes here, so let's go back and just check. So bids, and then change, and we'll check the CSS module, and we'll want to add a comma here, and then all right, so we're getting somewhere. Now I want to give this a font weight of bold, and then we'll transform it, translate X, let's go ahead. Grab this class, we want to say translate X, and we want to, translate Y. This is the one we want. And 10 pixels looks just about right. So let's go ahead and copy this. And put that into our change class. And we'll hit save. And that should be it for our stock info components. Let's go ahead and actually make it just 200 pixels wide. And we'll go ahead and see what that looks like. Maybe 225. Okay. So now that we have that, we can get started on plugging in our actual values, because they're going to come from state. And we're also going to get started on the highlights in the next video. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.